Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you are joining us from, and welcome to our session today, how to stay up to date with Wiley journals and scientific content. I really appreciate you being here. I know it can be tough to find time in your day for things like this, but I'm happy to have you here, and we're looking forward to a really great session. As you can see on the slide, I'm Мэри Helen. I'm a customer training manager here at Wiley, and I'm here with a colleague, and we're going to be answering questions, monitoring the questions, so that by the end of the session, hopefully you will be empowered to feel more comfortable with the platform and staying up to date with these resources. So just a few housekeeping items. This session is being recorded. So feel free to take notes, of course, but you will receive a link to the recording in about 24 hours. Be on the lookout for that, as well as a certificate. So that will acknowledge your participation today. In case you need to present that anywhere for credit hours, for learning hours, be on the lookout for both of those in your inbox. The slides that I'm using today are actually linked in the handouts section of your GoToWebinar pane. So if you see that little collapsible, expandable section, you can click on that and you should see the PDF version of these slides. Definitely encourage you to check those out, download them. You can keep them for your reference. Any of the links that we see today are going to be live in that as well. So I definitely encourage you to check those out. And please raise any questions in the question box. We are, of course, not face-to-face today, but you can interact with us. Like I said, my colleague and I will be checking questions. We'll keep an eye on that throughout the session, excuse me, and I'll also make pauses to see if we have any questions. So hopefully that will be something that's useful. Definitely encourage you to utilize that. And with that, let's get into the agenda that we've put together for today. We're hoping to cover a good bit. So we're going to talk about the content available on the platform and kind of what its benefits are. So depending on your subscriptions through the institutions, or just one institution perhaps that you're affiliated with, your access might vary, whether it's just for online books or journals or reference works. So you'll see all of that, but if you have any questions, I just encourage you to check with your main librarian, and they'll be able to kind of guide you in the right direction with some of the specific questions. So we'll talk about how journals and this content can help you with your academic and professional goals. Some of you who are already authors or who have published with Wiley, you know the value of scientific content within a platform like this, how it can drive your research or help you with different purposes. And of course, we'll do a live demo. If you have the capability, maybe if you have two screens like me today, you can still watch the webinar. I do encourage you to search along with me if you'd like. We'll be just kind of navigating the homepage, running some searches, both basic and advanced. And then kind of the core of the presentation today, saving searches and setting up alerts for those searches and subscribing to content alerts for journals. So very useful tools if you're running complicated searches, as well as just to stay up to date with things happening in your area. So again, setting up alerts for specific journals as well, also a really great tool. Then we'll get to some Google alerts, which is of course Google's alerts, not necessarily a function of Wiley Online Library, but a useful feature that we're going to kind of tie in today and that we'll touch on. And then we'll wrap up with where you can find some help and training resources useful for you as an author, as well as just those accessing Wiley Online Library. If you're thinking about publishing or you're interested in more information there, we will touch on some help and training resources as well as those resources for authors. So hopefully that sounds like a good plan. Again, if something isn't clear, if you have any questions, if I'm talking too fast, which does happen sometimes, please do raise that in the question box. So before we jump in, I would love to launch a poll. This is completely anonymous. You're going to see the answer, you're going to see the question on your screen in a bit. No right or wrong here, just gauging your familiarity level. How often do you access Wiley Online Library? Again, your name will not show up with this, nothing like that. We just want to kind of get a feel for where everyone is with their familiarity. So I'm going to give everybody a few seconds. Just encourage you to vote, please.
Okay, about half the people have voted. So if you want to, let's do it for another couple seconds and then we'll share the results.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Amy. We're about 65% that have voted. Give everybody a few more seconds. Going once, going twice. Okay, we'll go ahead and close it. Thank you so much. So now we can view these results. It looks like 47% have never accessed Wiley Online Library. That is okay. Special welcome to you, and you are in the right place. We're going to go through a lot of the foundational things today. You'll see that it's a very user-friendly platform. So thank you so much for taking the first step today. 7% weekly, that's awesome as well. Let's see, I wonder, okay. 7% weekly, that's great. 28% monthly, that is pretty frequent. So I'd love to hear any pain points that you encounter as a more frequent user of the platform. 12% semi-annually and 7% annually. Sorry, I think this is going in and out, but that's great as well. I would love to maybe hear any specific points you all have encountered as well, and maybe by the end of the session, you'll feel a bit more empowered to use this tool more frequently. So thank you again for voting. With that, let's hop back to our PowerPoint and start with some of the content that we can find within Wiley Online Library. So think of the platform itself as the Google of research that Wiley publishes. You go to the platform, which you'll see during the live demo, a very prominent search bar is in the middle of the page. So same concept as a search engine. And you're searching all of the scientific content that Wiley has published to date. So some numbers here that we can elaborate on. Over 1,600 peer-reviewed journals, that totals over 8 million articles. So the core of Wiley Online Library is really our journal content. But we have over 20,000 online books, over 200 multi-volume references and handbooks, so essentially online encyclopedias, 18 current protocols, which are lab manuals catered to the scientific community. I'm curious to hear if any of you have maybe utilized those, as well as 13 databases in chemistry and evidence-based medicine. So that is kind of aiding healthcare professionals in accessing the right information at the right time. Also curious to hear if anyone has experience using those. And just to highlight and point out, while we're talking about content, you will see a lot of related content and recommended readings, all with hyperlinks once you access a specific piece, maybe a specific article. So going to be very easy to find something similar or related to a particular topic. So that is some good news, which we will also explore during the live demo. So lots of content to be explored, which some of you, this may seem familiar. And again, if you are unsure about your subscription, I just advise you to check with your main librarian. They are the experts here and can give you specific information. But with subject coverage, as you browse, you'll see we cover a huge range of topics, from agriculture to law, veterinary medicine to humanities, which also includes over 126 subcategories. So a lot of information to be read and utilized. And if you don't see your discipline here, that of course does not mean we don't have it. This is just sort of a sample. Of using Wiley Online Library and how the platform can really help you with your professional goals. So some of these quite intuitive, can help you look up high quality scientific content related to keywords or topics. So of course we live in this age of the internet. There is plenty of content out there and available for free, but if you're a librarian or a researcher, a scientist, you certainly know the value of peer-reviewed journals and reliable content from publishers with stringent policies in place. So the quality that control that exists within Wiley with other academic publishers is something that is guaranteed, as opposed to something online in kind of this wild zone that might not necessarily be vetted. And you can stay up to date with what is published in your area of expertise. That's of course what we're going to be highlighting today. Compare this to maybe listening to the news or watching the news or listening to the radio, right? Those things that help you stay up to date with what's happening in the world or in your neighborhood, in your city. Much like staying up to date, regularly reading journal articles can help you stay up to date with what's going on in your field. Can help you discover trends in content that might help define your own research or manuscript. You can prepare manuscripts, scientific communications, lectures, or presentations, depending on perhaps for a conference or for a class that you're teaching. Cite content published by other experts, support their ideas, build on their research. There's actually a feature that you can search authors by institution affiliation, which we can certainly touch on in the live demo, but honestly a great way to network there. And ultimately advance your career as a researcher, faculty member, or expert in your field. So lots of great reasons to use this platform. Before we get into the live demo, I am not seeing any questions, but I will give you a second to type those if you would like while I pull up Wiley Online Library. But if there are no questions, that is okay. I am just going to press on with the live demo. So I have pulled up onlinelibrary.wiley.com and I have logged in as myself. This is how I log in as a Wiley employee. Excuse me. If you are remote, maybe you're not on campus or your university, there might be a remote authentication process. Typically, if you're on site or in your office, the authentication happens automatically through the Wi-Fi connection. But a lot of us work remotely like I do, like a lot of us nowadays. Sometimes there is an additional step that could also be a VPN that could be going through a certain website, but just something to keep in mind. Excuse me, and if you are having issues, I just encourage you to certainly double check again with your librarian on exactly how to authenticate remotely. As well, depending on your access, you may or may not have to set up this username, but this will give you the ability to actually save searches and take advantage of some of the things we're going to discuss today. So that's going to kind of be able to actually take advantage of the personalization sort of aspects of this experience. So I've logged in, I've done what I need to do, and then here is, of course, the homepage. So this is the search bar we were talking about, right? Hard to miss it, fairly intuitive, designed to be pretty user-friendly. A lot of content contained on the platform as we discussed. So these journals are linked here, reference works, as well as online books. If I want to jump straight to this page just to show you, this is kind of just going to search some recent and featured journal articles. Bear with me one second. So this is actually an alphabetical order list of publications, just if you want to browse that way. Some resources here. And this browse feature, I just want to point this out. If you don't have a keyword in mind, you can certainly come here. These all expand, and you can actually run a search on one of these subtopics. So many of you kind of might have a niche or an area of expertise that you certainly know what you're going to be searching for. If we do have any, perhaps instructors on the call, any professors on the webinar, this would be a good place to direct students doing a general research paper. So for perhaps chemistry and environmental chemistry, and they can kind of browse and sort of dose down from here. Essential oils, that's kind of interesting. So just kind of a broader search there on some subtopics, but from there they can kind of whittle down. Again, a lot of you will probably have keywords in mind when you come to the platform, which is where you will just type right here. So I'm going to start with something really simple. We'll start with botany. So if any of these titles catch my eye, I can certainly go ahead and click directly on them. I see this drop-down menu, but I just want to proceed with the search on everything. Botany, I just clicked the magnifying glass. And here is quite a lot of results, right? Over 200,000 results. So these tabs are going to denote exactly what kind of results these are, whether it's an article or a chapter or a full publication around botany. Also, by the way, I didn't say, but I would love for you to search along with me if you can. Do this simple search with me. Oh, bear with me. Okay, publications, right? So these are full publications, whether it's a journal or a book around botany. So you can pinpoint exactly what you want if you are interested in kind of the full body or just the smaller subset. Quickly, I also want to show you how to refine your search. And this is just sort of a preview into the advanced search, which we're going to see a bit later, but convenient in that it's right here on my results page. So good for a quick amendment. If I say maybe this is too many results to get through, I want to add a line, and this kind of implies that I'm seeking and, right? So I want the Boolean operator and, which some of you might be familiar with Boolean. We'll get into that a little bit later too. So maybe I want botany still, but I want to focus on the country of Costa Rica, right? And I named that in my keywords. I'm going to leave this at all dates, but you can certainly enter that as well. If you have a specific title in mind, you can even enter that here too. And I'm just going to click search. Okay, so much more manageable, right? This got me down to 223 results instead of over 200,000. So you can whittle it down that way, which is nice. And then furthermore, we have filters that we can use that can get us even further. But just to point out too, sorry, I forgot, these are automatically sorted by relevance. You can also sort by publication date, where you'll get the most recent upfront, just to note. So refining the search further though, let's look at these filters. We see we can filter by publication type, which is nice, as well as the publication date. Open access content. I still have a few articles fully open access. We can also frame it in the subject kind of angle. Maybe something's here that I hadn't really thought about, earth science, for example, just depending on a certain angle that I hadn't thought to narrow my search to, as well as specific publication titles, right? So here we have published in, and then these are all specific titles, if any of these catch my eye. And you can filter by author, excuse me, there we go. If any of these people, maybe I've worked with some of these folks or used their work before, can certainly filter by that as well. Mixing and matching these filters is really going to also whittle us down. So let's say I'm going to filter by journals, and I want to keep it to the last 5 years. That's recent enough for me. Okay, so I've now gone all the way down to 37, right? So a lot more manageable, a lot less content to sort of sift through. So I'm happy with this search now. Let's talk about saving the search. Let's say maybe this is for a presentation or a lecture, some kind of project that I'm working on. I want to come back to it. This wasn't a super complicated search today, right? Just botany and Costa Rica. But maybe it was a lot more complex, a lot of Boolean operators, a lot of lines, etc. So to make your life a bit easier, you can always save this search. So I'm going to click on the star icon. Oops, I thought I did log in. Okay. Well, so I'm going to log in again. Okay, let's try again. Save search. I can call it whatever I want. Maybe I'll do today's date. And it will alert me at any frequency, any of the below frequencies that I want. So daily, weekly, or monthly. Never, if you don't want an alert and you just want to save the search, that's fine too. Maybe I'll say monthly and save search. Okay. So 2 benefits. Next time I come to the platform, you don't have to think about all those keywords again or remember your Boolean operators, and you can just run the search again. And I've also set up alerts, right? So maybe I'm going to continue working on this. I know I said monthly for my alerts. All I did was come to my account, head to save searches, and I can always adjust these as well, right? So I have an alert happening monthly, but all I did was click it and run it again. So if there's any new content published, I will be alerted monthly. But if you selected never, you won't receive any new alerts. Okay, so hopefully this is all sounding good. I am going to go ahead and access our result. Let's get into that. So let's find, these are all going to be journal articles, right? Because that's what we've narrowed our selection to. The Neotropical. This sounds interesting, the cloud forest. Okay, so I'm just going to open this up in a new page, and I'm taken to the full text of the article, right? You're always going to find with a journal article, the full HTML text is available on this page. But if I want to download this, take it offline, print it, do whatever I want, I can always access the PDF as well. So just to show you, I just clicked on the PDF button, and I can save this, do whatever I want, print it, etc. So just something to note there. Also to show you the related reading, right? I think we talked about that. That's going to be found. References is another good one that you can view any references cited in this piece as well as the related. So these are all kind of dubbed related readings. And I can head right over if I'm curious about the ant fauna of a tropical rainforest. Maybe that sounds interesting. And that will be there as well. So citing, that's always something that is interesting as well. This is going to be under tools and exporting a citation, right? Another thing that you can do with citation is track a citation. So that's going to show you when someone cites a particular article. So maybe this is pertinent to your research, this project that you have coming up and your work. You might be interested to know when someone else is using this piece, right? I can utilize that piece maybe, reach out to them, maybe collaborate in the future. So when I click track citation, I'm taken this is right back to my account. And here I have citation alerts. So these are other ones that I have subscribed to. And you can manage these. Maybe you don't need it anymore. I can just click the trash can and it updates my settings. So hopefully this is all still sounding good. I want to talk about setting up content alerts again. So we know that we can save our search and get alerts on a specific search, right? But you can also subscribe to alerts in a specific journal. So let's say I like this article, this journal is interesting to me, I do want to keep using it. The journal that the article was taken from can always be found in this top right-hand corner. That's the volume and the issue. And the journal page itself is this banner. So let's go ahead and just head to the issue page. Right here next to or under submit an article and browse free sample issue, I can say get content alerts. So similar, right? You're receiving alerts. These are the ones that I'm already receiving. Select any item to unsubscribe. So these are the ones that I am receiving updates from. When there's any new content that comes available, I can manage these alerts. But This is from the Wiley Online Library, and these are the two journals. And then my citation alerts are here, right? So any new content that's published, I will receive an email about. So hopefully that is making sense. I'm going to quickly check the questions. Still none. That is all good. So let's head to an advanced search now that we've seen kind of a simple search and how that works. Just to show you too, if I wanted to open the full journal page, I can open just the banner itself. It's always going to be linked. I can get content alerts here as well. And this is where you can also, as you saw, probably submit an article for those curious about doing that. Find the aims and scope and the overview and the author guidelines as well. So just to point that out. So let's head back to the home page. Advanced search is just featured right below the search bar. So I'm going to click on that. Okay, so this is really best if you are using Boolean operators or you have multiple rows of criteria. You want to get a bit more specific and technical. So we're not going to get super in the weeds of Boolean today. We do have some on-demand recordings in our webinars page on our resources that we'll talk about too. I definitely encourage you to check some of those out. And there's also this helpful little cheat sheet. Hopefully you can see this okay. Kind of these search tips with and, or, and not to kind of describe the best ways to use those. They should always be entered in uppercase letters. Also, one more thing to note, you can search by more criteria, of course, and that's what you are going to whittle your search down. But be careful, because if you do too many criteria and you see you don't have any results, that just means that it was too specific. So for example, author affiliation, I know we talked about that, but just to show you title, author keywords, right? Just more specific things that you can search by, funding agency, even. So let's start with just kind of a basic one. I'm going to use as keywords, let's do viticulture or grape growing. So that is going to tell the system that viticulture is fine or grape growing is fine, right? So or ends up broadening your search. And I want to know specifically about South America, so I'm just going to leave that anywhere. And maybe I want the author's affiliation. I want to specifically read a South American author. If I have a date range in mind, you can also use that. Maybe that's a little too specific. I don't know. Let's see. I'm just going to click search. Oh, okay. That was too specific, too much. So I'm just going to say viticulture or grape growing. Oops, sorry. Viticulture or grape growing, and then South America. And search. Okay, so a lot of results here, right? And that is also because we really expanded that with the or operator. So pretty interesting there. Back, and I want to show you another example using a different operator, which is and that actually narrows a search, right? Because both terms must appear. So if I said history and, oops, feel free to search along with me again, and photography, and I want to see results regarding North America, that's going to say history and photography, both have to be intertwined, and North America needs to be in the results as well. Search. Okay, so quite a lot of results here, but could further filter from there. Maybe we can refine this a little bit more. So kind of leaving those the same. Maybe I'll throw in an author affiliation of, oh, let's see. Maybe let's try Yale. Okay, so we do have a few results, right? We used author affiliation and our Boolean operator. So hopefully those are some interesting results there. One more example of a really interesting operator, which is not, which we see here, and that is telling the platform to not include certain results that are not relevant to you. So let's say I'm interested in education, but I'm interested in adult education. So I'm going to say adult, not children, right? Because there's probably a lot of results on childhood education. I don't want to see any of those in this case. So I'm going to pop this in keywords, and I want this to be in keywords too. Let's search. Okay, so 599 results. That's pretty good, right? And then from there, I can further whittle down. So just kind of an overview of advanced search there. I'm seeing we still don't have any questions, but hopefully this is all making sense and sounding okay. So if it is, I will go ahead and show you some Google alerts, unless there's anything else you wanted to see, maybe on the platform, any other searches I can run. Going once, going twice. Okay. The last thing we'll touch on today for the live demo is going to be Google Alerts. So I'm just going to go to google.com/alerts. Excuse me. It'll usually ask you to log in. So here's me. I'm just going to click on my email address. So you do, I believe, have to have a Gmail for this. I think you have to have a Google account. So just something to note. But in the box at the top, I am just going to create alerts. So let's stick with botany again, perhaps. So here are all of the different results, and I can create an alert around this. I can always edit it. If I went to, that was the update alert button. How often, the sources, language, etc. So if I want to hide the options too. Okay, so let's say my alerts. So pretty self-explanatory there, pretty straightforward, delivered directly to my inbox, right? Hopefully you can see that, okay, whoops. Okay, and if I want to exit out of that, I can always just erase. And that is really the story with Google Alerts. So several different ways to sort of stay up to date with various publications and various article alerts. So still no questions after the live demo, that's okay.
Someone is raising their hand, so I hope that they'll type their question into the question box for you.
Oh yes, wonderful. If you would type your question into the question box, that would be great. Okay, well, yes, the person with your hand raised, please do type it into the question box. And I will go ahead and get back to the slides while we hopefully have some questions coming in. So kind of a summary of what we learned. We kind of looked at the homepage, we looked at searching and filtering, refining your search, content alerts, managing those alerts, as well as citation alerts and Google alerts, into some useful resources for authors. If you're interested in publishing, or again, maybe you have published before, definitely encourage you to check out our Customer Success Hub. That's going to have some very useful resources, both on Wiley Online Library as well as publishing, both videos, PDFs. A lot of what we've covered today is going to be in the training hub. I'm going to go ahead and just show you what that looks like. So here you can find, we've updated things recently. But under training resources, I can find a Wiley Online Library Training Hub. Bear with me. Okay, so a lot of what we've used, right? Setting up citations alerts, any kinds of reviews. I'm going to go ahead and paste this in the chat. Resources for authors. So lots of good things to be discovered here, as well as webinars. This page has been under construction for a while, but there are some really interesting on-demand webinars. And then once we do finally kind of have the ability to do so, we will publish upcoming webinars like this one. So bear with me again, webinars. Okay, so here is our event calendar. I'm gonna pop this in the chat as well, just for your reference, for your information. Some interesting things there. Some helpful resources for authors. Wiley has a lot of free resources dedicated to authors within author services. So if you've published before, or if you're thinking about it, again, I encourage you to make sure you download this presentation and click this link to explore those further. There's a big priority in supporting you with manuscripts, ensuring maximum discoverability, with SEO writing. There are manuscript guidelines and resources to help you with promotion, etc. So a lot of useful things that we won't get all the way into now, but I do encourage you to look at that. There's also Wiley editing services for authors, which you can explore more as well. So these do tend to be paid services and they are optional, but you can again look around if you're curious. This is linked here as well. Things like extra promotion, as well as professional translation services. Maybe you're publishing in English, but English isn't your first language, etc. So things like that that will hopefully be helpful. So I thank you so much for your participation, and I know that felt very quick, but I know we also haven't had any questions. So I would love to hear from you, how you're feeling after seeing this webinar. If you'd like to see any other pieces or portions to the live demo while we have some extra time. If not, that's okay too, but we do have a few minutes. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Okay, well, if there are no questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Well, here we go. Does Wiley have its own journal? So Wiley publishes a broad range of journals and has kind of the editorial teams behind those. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know if that answered your question. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all very much for being here. I guess a better way to frame that is Wiley does for water research. Please name your journal for water research. I'm not exactly sure about that. That's a great question. I bet if we run a search on Wiley Online Library, just under, maybe it's underwater, I don't know if we would find some journals there. A lot of results, huh? But maybe we can go to the full publication and find a journal. So is this helpful to find for water research under publications? Water science, Earth's future, eco hydrology. a lot of different ones here. So I would encourage you to just kind of search for whatever it is that you're specifically interested in, and you can go to publications and go from there to find full journals. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that was helpful. Yes, you will get a certificate. Thank you for that question. Be on the lookout for the certificate in about 24 hours, as well as the link to this recording. That will be in your inbox. Okay. Yeah, of course. Thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new. Again, be on the lookout for the recording and the certificate. Any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you again for being here. We will see you at our next webinar. Have a great rest of your day.